You're listening to another ambitious entrepreneurnetwork.com podcast, the voice for entrepreneurs and small business. Now, onto the show.
Welcome to Smart Connect Podcast, the podcast for small to medium-sized enterprises. Join your host, Anne-Marie Cross, as she interviews business experts and industry thought leaders on best practice initiatives, innovation, and insights to help you grow your business. Now, over to your host.
Welcome to Smart Connect Podcast Episode 5, featuring business experts and industry thought leaders to help you effectively navigate a constantly changing and disruptive marketplace. Hi, I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross. Now, are you aware that the AusIndustry Research and Development Program is a great tool for emerging businesses to use as part of their capital raising program? Joining me today is Douglas Townsend. He is a specialist in the AusIndustry R&D Incentive Program and a dedicated consultant to a wide range of companies, driving programs that have released funds to commercialise emerging technology across a range of industries. Douglas is an entrepreneur by nature and an accountant by training. With an extensive background in business and cash flow management, his knowledge lies in providing expert advice to clients with research and development claims and government programs to accelerate their growth. Now, on today's show, Douglas is going to speak about government is here to help you, seriously. Get started on the path of using government programs to support your business. How to successfully apply for grants. I know that many of us are looking to do that. How to make your local government a marketing channel. So lots more on store in the show for you today. Welcome to the show, Douglas.
Hi Anne-Marie, good to be here.
Yes, look, I'm really excited about this show because so many entrepreneurs, small businesses, enterprises really look at government programs, particularly the AusIndustry, the R&D, as something which is what they vie for, yet often struggle to achieve. So it's really good to be able to tap into your knowledge. The government really is here to help. Seriously, that's what you say, getting started on the path of using government programs to support your business. What are some things that you see small businesses and enterprises doing well, but perhaps also what are we not doing well, which is one of the reasons why we're not successful when applying for these grants?
Okay, small businesses in Australia are very, very innovative. Most small businesses that enter into the market with great ideas, and their execution is around delivering those ideas is really good. But where we really fall down in this country is access to angel capital investment and venture capital investment, which generally means that small businesses raise money for family and friends. They end up developing up projects and ideas, and they get to a certain point and they run out of cash. And that's very, very difficult because generally what happens, they're probably 2 steps away from commercialisation. They may have a prototype, but they just can't get through that valley of death. And that's really where the R&D tax incentive program can help people out.
You've mentioned also the fact that you have helped many of your clients across a range of industries. Just off the top, what sort of industries? Because I know it's so easy for us to listen to a podcast or listen to an interview and say to ourselves, well, not me because I'm in such and such an industry. So what are some of the industries you've helped?
Well, it's amazing the spread of industry. So we've helped a company who have been in the entertainment industry developing up and producing shows for 20 odd years. And they were doing R&D and weren't aware of the fact that they were doing R&D. So we went in there and their R&D claim was rather significant. And they've got really good outcomes, and out of those outcomes they've been able to actually create a new business division, which is around the commercialisation of their attractions that they can take outside of their business and put into other places, and so allowed them to go international.
Wow.
We helped. Yeah, it was really, really good. But we helped. The best one I like is we had a client who was really sort of had a small, what you'd call, hobby business. She was making soy candles, and she'd grown that business online and started to sell her soy candles up up into Southeast Asia and Northern Australia, and she, for the first time, started getting a lot of complaints about the quality of the candles. And it only, after trying to figure out what was going on, I only tweaked to her that once the candles hit the Tropic of Capricorn, they started to melt. So she had to develop new ways of being able to package and send the candles so that they retained their shape and everything like that. So she was doing a small program around that and getting new packaging developed up and everything like that, and we helped her recover some of that money so she could reinvest it back into her business, which then helped her grow the business further.
Yeah, amazing. You mentioned initially in the first client that you gave the example of around that they were developing shows and they had been doing that for a number of years, but they didn't realise that many of the processes, if you will, that they were doing was classified as research and development. So for people who perhaps are in that same situation and may not be realising that, hang on a sec, what you are doing, those activities really are clearly research and development. What are some of those things that you can share that really are functions within the research and development capacity?
So the whole process about R&D is effectively, are you creating new knowledge for your company that you couldn't have got elsewhere? And we'll use an example that AusIndustry do use. So if you decide, I want to develop a soft drink that tastes and looks the same as a leading global brand, how do I go about it? Well, obviously you can't go to the global brand and say, hey, I'd like your recipe. Could you give me your recipe? Because they wouldn't like that. So what you would then have to do is search around and go, okay, I can't do that, and I can't just hire someone to give me that information, so I'm going to have to develop it up myself. Now that might mean that you then go out and pay someone who is expert in developing up recipes to come up with something that then you're testing and retesting until you get the exact flavour and maybe texture of the drink right. That's research and development. It's about taking it through that stage. It's information you couldn't get elsewhere. It's about commercialising it with a commercial prospect about that, and you've had to do some experimentation. Now, experimentation is conducting an activity where the result cannot be known beforehand. So you can't do experimentation based around the fact of mixing two ingredients together to make a cake that's well known.
Right.
But if you were saying, okay, I wanted to add omega-3 fish oils to that cake, I need it to taste exactly the same, I've got to figure out how to do it. Then you can do it, because there's no way of you knowing what the outcome is going to be with the different levels that you put there.
But what if it also requires you to invest in expert help?
Yes, anything that you have to pay to do your research and development, including your overheads to allow that to happen, becomes eligible R&D. There's a few criteria. If you're doing it offshore, it would be best to go to what they call an advanced finding. So you would go to AusIndustry and you would say, hey, look, I want to do this, I can't do it in Australia, the expert I need exists in another country, and therefore I need to be able to employ those people. Then they'll look at it and they can give you a claim. But generally anything you're doing in Australia, as long as it's the R&D is a genuine R&D project, the expenses will be claimable.
Let's talk a little bit about how to successfully apply for grants. I know that it can be quite a long, well, for many different types of grants, a long and laborious process, and putting all the time and energy in and then getting, no, you weren't successful, can be quite disheartening. So what are some tips, what are some things that we need to be aware of?
Okay, the first tip and what I tell all my clients and people that talk to me about this, because you can imagine, when I go to parties and tell people that my business is about helping business get money from government, they're queuing up.
I can imagine.
And the first thing I have to tell people is, Government is not interested in investing in your business. Not interested whatsoever in investing in anybody's business. That's what the market is for, that's what entrepreneurs are for. What government, the one thing government is really, really interested in investing in is jobs.
Yes.
So whatever application you're doing, always keep that in mind. They're interested in how it creates jobs. And maybe secondarily, and at a secondary level, there's always, does it meet the current government's policy settings? So if the government has a real idea that mining is good for the economy or that advanced manufacturing is, there'll be policies will be set and government grants will be set in those areas. So the first thing you've got to figure out is, where does my business sit in terms of the grants spectrum, and where does my business sit in terms of government priority areas, or where does the project sit, more importantly. So if you can have a look at that and make whatever you're going to do to align to that, then you're going to have a greater chance of getting a successful outcome.
Douglas, just on that note, and I'm sure you've got some more tips you want to share, but just on that one, looking at really understanding clearly what the government, what's important to government, are there some resources that businesses can go and do some more research around to find out where are the key areas that the government really is looking at within their policies? Is there any key resources that you recommend?
Their government websites are fantastic. Look at whoever the party in power is, have a look at their website. That'll tell you the overall positioning of the government of the day. Because at the end of the day, government is about politics and politicians making decisions that then the bureaucracy executes on. And the bureaucracy takes the general programs and turns them into programs that can be delivered by the department. So that's the way. But the biggest thing is have a look at you go on, just don't need to type in, the federal government have an overall grants website that you can go in and have a look into. You just type in Australian government grants into Google or your search engine. It'll bring up the grants website. You can search all the grants. The biggest key thing is read everything 3 times, and it's like an exam. Answer the question. Make sure you're answering the question. I've seen people putting grants, I failed, I went for this grant, and send me what you've done. They send it to me and go, well, you haven't answered the question. Government was looking for this particular outcome. There's nothing in what you've put down that actually says, and if you give me the money for this and I do that, this will give you the result that meets your outcome.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got to do. You've got to, it's just like the university, exam question. Make sure you answer the question. Be very, very clear. Say exactly what you want to say and leave out the marketing hype.
They see right through that, and they're really all about the outcomes, and we can be guided by the outcomes that we want to highlight, very much to the to how the question was framed and what they're looking for. And often I think as business owners we can get so excited about our business idea and the potential that we can get stuck into the marketing hype. But this is just the facts. Give us the facts, the outcomes. That's all they need, and that's all they're certainly looking for. Are there any other top tips that you want to share with people today?
Yes, it's certainly, look, there are some grants that may not be worth the time going for. The criteria of the grant may take up more of the time and effort than you can get. And there's other times where our business exists is that clients have projects that don't quite fit the grants. Now, it's about how you negotiate your way through. So if you're wanting to do it yourself and you're saying, okay, I don't want to pay an outside expert, I want to do this myself, I would certainly recommend the first thing to do, go up and speak to your local member of parliament, because they're going to help you and be able to guide you. Ring up the department and find out who the program manager is and have a discussion with them. Talk to people before you actually start the process and try to understand how it works, what the timings are, and what you're really going to have to do to get the money out of the grant. And that will certainly, the money, the time and effort you invest up front will reduce the time and effort you have to go through whilst you're going through those programs.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, Douglas, the fact that you can ring and speak to some of those key people involved in that. And if you're going, and obviously this is not a pitch, it's certainly not a pitch, but rather finding out relevant information to see whether your idea or what you're putting together in that application is what they're looking for, and they can certainly give you some advice around that, whether or not they think that it's going to be a viable option for you. Any other tips you want to share today?
Any business that is operating in the space that wants to engage and look for government, there's plenty of spend in the economy from government. That probably for most businesses, government is spending money in the economy. So if you're not signed up to the tender website, your state, the national website, whatever you're doing, sign up, have a crack at a tender at least once a year. The reason you can do that is because quite often the questions that they're asking in the tender make you think about how your business is running in that particular service offering that you're doing. And it gives you, it's almost a good health check of where you are in your business as much as anything else. It does take time, but I believe even if you're unsuccessful, that time makes your business better because you've had to go through a very strict process of being very clear about your product or service that you're trying to sell into the marketplace. Local government is a great place too. They're often doing stuff, and have tenders out. But people who are offering products and services should be trying to find out from their local government what they need. They are big spenders. Most local governments have budgets between $30 and $60 million a year, and they do procure a lot of services and products in that budget.
Yeah, and you do mention that you wanted to speak a little bit about how to make your local government a marketing channel, and I would imagine that what you've just shared is certainly a key step in that area. So many of the local governments have websites. Would that be a good place to start, to actually go and do a bit of research on their individual websites?
Oh, certainly. Look, most local governments will have an economic development arm, or they will be engaging with the local Chamber of Commerce. Now, if you're wanting to sell into that, participate. Go to the meetings, turn up, find out what's going on. Not only is it great for your personal network in your local area, but you will you'll get to know the people in local government, and you'll get to know when things are coming up, whether there's something there for your business, the opportunity for your business in selling to them, and also you'll be able to discussions then find out what's going on in the future. Now, you may not be offering a particular service, but you may know that the local government is looking at developing up for instance, a sporting precinct, and you can say, geez, if they're doing that, I could get this product to sell into that, then it can open up different opportunities in businesses that you haven't even thought about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from what you're saying, this really needs to be part of a long-term strategy. I mean, when you're talking about grants, when you're talking about local and federal government, it's not an overnight thing, is it? It really does take, relationship building is so important, we know, in businesses. But this area, tapping into research and development and other grants that are available, it is really a long-term process, and things often happen way in the future, don't they? Like obviously grants and opportunities to put forward for. What's the longest if we're looking forward in the future? I mean, they're planning months and months, if not longer, ahead in the future, aren't they?
Well, most local governments will do a 4 to 5 year strategic plan.
Yeah.
So if you're in, say, the construction industry, you need to get hold of as many of those strategic plans as you can.
Yeah.
Because they will tell you where the local government is looking to spend its money on the products and services it's going to offer in the future. State governments do the same, and federal governments are down there. So the budget papers are really good idea of where future government spending activity is going to take place. In terms of the R&D, if you're a business, a manufacturing business and creating stuff, you're probably doing R&D. There's every chance you're doing R&D today. The only question you're going to ask yourself is, with my time and efforts, as long as you're paying yourself a salary, am I spending more than $20,000 in this? If the answer is yes, go and speak to your accountant or your local R&D advisor. Sit down and spend a half an hour discussion with them to determine if you are actually doing R&D. The program exists there because government wants to encourage businesses to do R&D commercial outcomes because they lead to jobs. That's what it's there to do. Most people who are doing R&D do not make claims, either because they're not aware of it, or their accountant is nervous about doing it, or they're nervous about doing it. The simple fact of the matter is the program is run in two parts. AusIndustry are the ones that determine what you're doing, whether that's an R&D project. And you fill out the application, you send it in, and if they look at it and go, yeah, this is fine, they will register that as an R&D program, and then you do your tax side. Now, it is a self-assessment system, so that's where you need to have your tax agent there or an R&D expert who works with a tax agent, sitting down and going through there with it. You can do it yourself, but most people aren't that confident to do that. And once you determine that, you just go do it. I mean, that's the program. It's the only program that sits there that says it's an entitlement program. So as long as you're meeting the criteria, you will get your outcome. You will get your refund or your rebate based on the R&D spend. So it is an entitlement program.
Now, I know that this is an area that is your expertise and you certainly help clients. Before you share a little bit more about the work that you do and how people can get in contact with you, I know you've mentioned already two great examples from the clients you've helped. Do you have a success story of maybe the most, strangest or the most, that you supported in getting their R&D that you want to share today?
Well, look, I suppose the entertainment guys were the biggest one, because they were spending considerable money in excess of $1 million a year. Wow. They were putting on new shows every year, and they were creating animatronics and different types of audio-visual equipment and that they used in their shows. To put these shows on, and they were spending an absolute fortune. And when we went in there, every time I went back there, I said, "Now, have I got everything?" They'd go, "Yeah, we've got everything." And then, one of the bizarre ones was, "I've got everything." Yeah, we've got everything. "Oh, while you're here, can you try this new pumpkin beer?" I said, "We made pumpkin beer." "Oh, well, we went over to the States and we found out that for Halloween that they were serving pumpkin beer." Wow. So in our show, we decided we wanted to have our people drink pumpkin beer, but we came back here and no one was doing it. And so we had to get a local brewer to work with them to create pumpkin beer. I said, "You do realise that's R&D?"
Amazing.
So even this is someone who I've been working with for a number of years, and even then they didn't realise, oh yeah, that's right, we had to create that and we commercialised it.
There you go.
And so we put that through as a claim. So that was I suppose it was the biggest thing that came, is even people who are actively involved in the programs quite often forget what they're doing, and over the course of the year that they've been doing R&D. So I would say to people, if you're creating stuff and what have you, take notes, write it down, and then that way you're starting to collect all the data you need to do your R&D claim.
And what's really interesting about that example is, yes, they've obviously had to manufacture and develop specific technology to help them, but they're very much, and if you look at the show component of their business, that very much, I'd imagine, is like a service. It's their expertise, it's knowledge that they are developing and obviously creating jobs for people that come in and work with their organisation. And I think sometimes we as businesses could think, well, we do provide a service or an area, a new area, which we know is quite innovative and needs research and development around to take to market. So it's not just products, but certainly expertise as well in the case of, I'd imagine, this show producer.
The R&D is all about knowledge. It's not about physical things.
Yeah, fantastic.
So it's the knowledge that you have that is what you're claiming on. So it can be a service if that service incorporates new knowledge that you have to develop up.
Yeah, fantastic. So Douglas, share a little bit more about how you can support clients and how people can get in contact with you.
Okay, so our company, Marketing Management Consultants, has been around since 2003. You can find us on the web at www.markstone.com.au. We support clients who generally have multi-level R&D claims, or who are really nervous about doing it and just want us to come in and say, have we actually been doing it? And I take them through the process. I help them with their record keeping, because obviously you've got to have the records. Now, quite often people have been doing R&D and then they say, well, I don't think I've got the records. So I'll take them through their emails and everything that they've got to prove that they're actually doing it. And we go through that. Then with our accountants at our back end, we take their P&L and we flesh out what was the eligible expenditure for both what they call the core activities, which is directly related to the experimentation, and those supporting activities that needed to take place to help the experimentation take place. We write up the form for them, we help them write up their experiment in a way that meets the legislation, so that AusIndustry can look and go, yes, this is really an R&D process came on board. Now that's a personal service, and generally we do that for clients that have spent more than $100,000 on R&D. People under that, I would recommend we go to our website called researchanddevelopmentgrants.com.au. That has an online system which is a self-guided system which they can sit there and fill out. We sit here at the back end and just have a look at it and go through them and help get the wording better. But that's a quicker and obviously a cheaper option for people to do, to get to a point where we can get the application lodged for them and they can take that to their accountant, who will then go through the eligible expenditure with them on their program. It's just if someone wants to do a self-guided methodology, this is a good way to do it.
Fantastic. Look, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know I learned a lot, lots of great information there, and I know that everyone who's listening today, certainly the insights you've shared has certainly given them, to start thinking, are we doing research and development? And there's some great resources that you've shared too. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Are you a specialist who supports small business and you want to increase your visibility, reach and influence with your own podcast channel, but you don't want to handle the back-end management and ongoing promotion of your show? The Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast Network is on the lookout for a select group of specialists who are ready to become an influencing voice in their industry. So if you're an aspiring podcast host, or if you have an existing business-focused podcast and you're looking for ways to increase your exposure, reach and results by leveraging our podcast network platform, let's talk. To find out more, go to www.ambitiousentrepreneurnetwork.com/podcast host. That's www.ambitiousentrepreneurnetwork.com/podcast host. The voice for entrepreneurs and small business.
Well, Well, that brings us to the end of another wonderful show. Please do reach out to Douglas. As you can tell from today's interview, they really are experts in their field. Now, if you do want to connect with Australia's foremost collective of business experts and industry thought leaders for small to medium-sized enterprises and businesses, go to www.ssba.net.au. That's ssba.net.au.